This lesson is part of a series of lessons related to dependent drop-down lists. What do I mean by dependent drop-down lists? Basically, here I have three lists of items, and in this cell, I can select one of those lists, for example, list 2. If I go to cell H19, I can select any of the items related to the list that I have selected. Now, my advice to you is that if you find this lesson difficult or if you want to see other methodologies on the same concept, please have a look at the description of this video. I'm gonna post a link to each of the other videos so you can check them out. I'm also gonna post a link so you can download this workbook with all the examples. And the key thing that we're gonna use today is the offset function, but we also gonna make sure that this is dynamic. What do I mean by dynamic? If, for example, I add something here at the bottom, I can go back to this drop-down list and I can see that it gets added automatically. So we start with some clean data, and the first thing we're gonna do is transform those lists into Excel tables. So I selected my list 1, I'll go to Insert, I will select Table, and here I'm gonna call it TT list 1. I'm gonna do the same for the other two. So insert table TT list 2, enter, and insert table TT list 3. So that's step number 1. Step number 2, I'm gonna create another list where I'm gonna have the list headers. So let's copy this, Control C. We can go here, then we go to Home, Paste, Paste Special, then Transpose. Let's put just the values, and then let's call it Lists. Let's create an Excel table. So Insert, Table. My table has headers, and then we do TT mapping. So now I want to populate F18. First of all, I'm going to write the formula here, and then if the formula is okay, I can just bring it to F18. And this is best practice because if you have a problem, it will be very hard to troubleshoot in data validation. So let's do equal, and let's select this and say enter, and you can see that I get this list. Now the problem with this, if you just try to copy paste it, so I go here, Control C, then escape, and I go to F18, data, I click on data validation, I do list, and I paste it, I'm gonna get an error, as you can see. Why am I getting an error? Because data validation does not like things with tables, etc. So what can I do? I can come back here and use something called indirect. I open the parenthesis. If you see here, it should be a text, but this is a table. So to make it a text, I can add double quotation mark before and after, close it. I don't get any difference here, but now if I just go Control C, escape, I select the cell, then for data validation, I go for list, paste, I say OK, now it works. So the good thing about this is that if I add a list, now the list will appear here. The next step is to be able to populate this drop-down menu. And this is a bit more difficult. We're going to use the offset function. So let's try by hard coding first, and then we can start looking at how to fix every element. So if we do equal offset, we need a reference. So my reference will be the first cell in the first list. You click on it, you will get the whole list. That's fine. That's not a problem. And then we need to see how many rows we're going to go down or up. In this case, I don't want to go up or down in rows. I want to move columns, right? Because if he selected list 2 or list 3, it has to go to this column or this column. So we're going to put 0 for rows. Now for columns, as I said, you need to move columns if he selects something else. So if he selected, for example, list 2, I need to offset by 1 column. So be careful, it's not 2 columns, it's just 1 column. So we're just going to assume that the person selected, she or he selected list 2, so we're going to put 1. Next comes the height. The height is the number of records we want to select. In this case, I want to select all my records. So here I will have X number of records, here I have more, and here I have less. For now, I'm just going to put 5 as a hard-coded number, and then we're going to fix it. And the width, the last one, is the number of columns to take. I want to take 1 column because the list is always on 1 column. So I'm just going to put 1, I close the parentheses, and I say enter. So I get obviously something. Assume here we have list 2. This is hard-coded. So I'm getting the first 5 elements of list 2. One thing I want to show you is that since every list here has only 1 column, I don't need this at list 1. So I can just remove it. If I do this, there is no change in the result. Now we need to start fixing the parameters we have here. So the reference is not a problem. The rows is not a problem. The column is a problem. So I need to know how many columns I need to move to the right. So how can I fix the column? I can use a match formula. Let's use the match formula and then copy paste it here. So if I go here and I do equal match, what is my lookup value? It is list 2. Then what is my lookup array? It is this. Then what is my match type? It is an exact match. So I select 0. Then I close my parentheses and I get 2, which is perfect. Now if I get list 3, I get 3, and list 1, I get 1. So let's keep list 2. Now if I go and copy paste this, so I'm selecting this, Control C, Escape, and I go here, instead of this 1, I paste my new formula, I will have a problem. Why? Because if you remember, this gave me 2. But in this case, if I select list 2, I need to move 1 column to the right. So to fix this, I need to do -1. I just decrease it by 1. So now we move 1 column to the right, and that works. Enter. Now we get the same result with this match formula. The next parameter we need to fix is this one. This one is the height. As I said, the height is the number of records to take. And if you see here, I fixed it at 5, but in this case, we had more number of records. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna create here a column called count. And I'm gonna use a formula called count A. So basically count A will count all the cells that are with a value. So I'm just gonna select for list 1, we need to select this. We close the parentheses, we get 7. Let's do also list 3, count A, then we have list 3. And let's do list 2, count A. We get 12 elements. So now that I have this, the only thing I need to do, since I know which list I'm using, I just need to do a VLOOKUP, simple VLOOKUP. I get list 2, I search for list 2 in this table, and take this number. So let's go back here. Instead of this 5, let's do a VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP, open parenthesis. My lookup value is list 2, comma. Where am I looking? In this table. So this is my T mapping. What is my column index? 2. And then it is false, so we get a perfect match, and then we do enter, and we get all the data. If I change list 3, you can see that I get the right number of months. Now I have my formula. I just need to copy paste it here in my data validation, right? Well, remember the problem we got with our list. We had to use the indirect function every time I have a table. So I have to do the same thing here. See where I have a table. I have a table here. I have a table here, and I have a table here. So let's use indirect for each case. So here, indirect, I know the formula will start looking scary, but if you do it step by step like I'm doing, you won't have a problem. So you just put the double quotation, because as we said, indirect likes text. So this is the first one. Next we have this one. So we do indirect, we open double quotation, we close it here, we close the parentheses, and for T mapping, we have indirect, open parentheses, double quotation, close it, enter. Same result, but now we have the indirect function in. So we just select this, Control C, escape, we go to this, data validation, list, then we can just paste, and we say OK, and there you go. If I change my list to list 1, you will get the right information. So this is a methodology with offset. I know it looks a little bit scary, it looks a little bit complicated, but once you grasp those concepts, it will be very easy for you. So if you like this lesson, don't forget to leave a thumb up, and I strongly recommend you to start watching the episodes related to dependent dropdown from the beginning, so you can see the building blocks to reach this kind of complex methodology. And in the next lesson, which will be the last one, we're going to see one more methodology for dynamic drop-down menus.